welcome to Transcendent. I'm Raya, and I'm the daughter.
And I'm Joe, and I'm the dad.
Let's just jump right into it. So today, I'm very excited to have a close friend here, Will Church. We have been friends for many years. We're co-workers together. We work together on a group it's called Pride at Work, an LGBTQ plus focused group on advocating for LGBTQ plus issues in the workplace. And I've actually kind of taken a step back, and Will has continued on with that. And I've been very grateful. He's very vocal on advocating for people in our community. And this year has come out himself. And so, Will, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks. Great to be here.
So we wanted to talk about asexuality today, and because that's how you came out. And now you had talked to me about this before, but this was the first time that you came out really to everybody at work.
Yeah, it's not something I usually talk about because, who really cares unless you're in the relationship, honestly, in that regard. During June, I started doing some posting inside of our internal social media at work as one of the Pride ambassadors. And then I got up the nerve and I actually did a pretty large post about just who I am and what I am. And I came out to the entire company as an asexual person. So yeah, that was something. It was kind of a load off at the moment, actually.
For our audience, some people may not know even what that means. How would you define asexual?
It's kind of an umbrella. Generally, the asexual umbrella is a lack of sexual attraction. People who will identify as asexual itself, then there's demisexual, which usually there's more of a closer bond emotionally before there's any form of sexual attraction is involved, which if there is any sexual attraction for me, that has to be there. But generally speaking, through life, those urges aren't there. And you've got a few other ones. And then the aromantic part gets in there as well, because there's a difference between actual sexual attraction and then wanting the trappings, the feelings of the romanticism that comes with it. I'm fairly aromantic myself. I mean, there are times the companionship is more of the things I look for. But yeah, there's a lot of different things that can be in there. For me, it really comes down to, those urges that they keep telling you that guys have and those things that other men seem to have, women too. I don't see humans as sexual things. It's not interesting to me.
Mm-hmm. Would you talk a little bit about how you then experience the world? Like watching movies, for instance, where sexuality is really a critical part of most movies and culture, and it's everywhere. How's the world different for you?
Well, and that's just it. You're playing in those areas where you've got sexuality and romanticism come in there, and like I said, for the most part, I don't identify in there. So a lot of times when you start getting into those, it doesn't turn me off of literature because I understand. Well, I came to understand that people actually felt that way. I didn't realize that at first.
What was your experience before you realized that?
Well, I thought it was a joke, kind of like a wink and a nudge when in sex ed and, in churches or whenever they're talking about, hey, these guys, you're going to get those there. And I thought it was just kind of a wink and a nudge and a thing that we just all kind of socially agreed to. And I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. The people that seemed sincere about it always seemed patronizing, like, oh, that's all you're going to be thinking about or stuff like that. And that, it never resonated. But otherwise, it just, like I said, it was just a wink and a nudge. Oh, this is just something that's going to be there. Sure, why not? Thumbs up and wink to you too, and I'm going to go have fun over there, Mm-hmm. So, when it comes to like literature and movies and TVs and stuff, I mean, you really see it. Like a lot of them will have these. And to me, it seems a lot of the entanglements on the relationship side just seem extra and frivolous and stuff. But the stories are still there. They provide the plot. So it's interesting to watch. I won't identify with that. But, the friends usually hanging out in the background, they're doing just this weird stuff and hanging out, and those are the people I would identify with.
Mm-hmm. And this is a new area for most of us, including really for Dad and I. I think we've done a little bit of research and some talking about it, but it's certainly not my lane and it's not Dad's lane either. So it's hard to understand. First of all, what do you call somebody that's not asexual?
There's some people that are allosexual. They'll call that or something else. It's like, I don't.
I mean, in general, though, that is a term that might be used.
Yeah, that is a term
among
that
some people.
You'll find it more in groups that are specifically asexual dominant, just because we have to have a term to refer to it.
So, in allosexual, then just means
Somebody who
attracted to
yes.
other people.
Yeah, they have their sexual attraction is a drive that they have. To quote myself and how I put it in that post when I came out on the social media at work, was more of, when it comes to sexual attraction and sex in general itself, is more of, it's a necessity. I'm not getting as much pleasure out of it in general. I mean, I'm having fun because the other person's having fun. It's more of their thing. I'm doing
kind of like shaking hands,
washing dishes.
Yeah.
That's really what it is.
Somebody described it, and I'm curious to hear how you would resonate or not with this one, as they said it's a little bit like bowling, that somebody says, hey, let's go bowling, and you think, sure. Let's try that out. That sounds like it would be fun.
Okay.
And then so you do that for the night and you think, okay, that was a good time. And then the next night the person says, hey, let's go bowling again. You think, I just did that.
Yeah.
Or even the next week, and you think, okay, well, I'm kind
of we've done this. Let's do something else. Let's try other hobbies.
Yeah, that's not something you want to be pinned down on.
Ha ha ha. There we go. I was hoping to get a joke out of you.
Yeah, you really struck out with that one.
Clearly, it's not up your alley.
Yeah.
Oh, beautiful. I
us.
love this. This is really why, if anybody's paying attention to me at all, this is why I came on the podcast, is to listen to these in person.
Well, what else would you expect from a turkey like me?
Absolutely. I love it. To reiterate some of the things that you guys have said on this podcast in regards to trans people or anybody else, you talk to an ace person, one ace person. Everyone's going to be a little bit different, because there are communities, because that's what humans do, is create communities. So in the asexual communities, there are parts there, and you'll see kind of a spectrum there. There are some people that are absolutely repulsed by sexual acts in any way, shape, or form. You'll have people that like it, but it's not their cup of tea, or again, they'll have to have very specific criteria before they feel any type of attraction at all. And it's usually a very low thing.
Of course, then with that distinction between asexual and aromantic. Now, for you're saying really both of those apply to you. And I have another close loved one that identifies similarly. But I've heard plenty of people that identify as asexual that say that they are not at all aromantic and are really excited to have that romantic relationship. They just don't really need the sex component.
Oh yeah, all the trappings of what you would think of would be a sexual relationship, except for the sex itself. It's not the physical touch and things. It's the going through the dating. It's the crushing on somebody. It's that the butterflies in the stomach, and having those, getting into that early stuff. There are people that are very much into that, cuddling on the couch, that kind of thing there. Whereas, my form of intimacy personally, the most intimate a person can be is one person is watching TV and the other person is laying with their legs across them reading a book. It's like just being there with that person. And that's my form of intimacy, spending that time.
What about communication with the person of the opposite sex? There's a lot of intimacy there too, or can be.
Yeah, there's always going to be some form, but for me, it's going to be the closest of friends, like the closest of friends. Like, I have a partner, and there are things that I've had best friends before and things like that, but there's still only things that I could even think about talking to that person, because it's still a connection there somewhere else.
I have a friend like that as well.
I think I met her. But that was the actual relationship. That was what made the partnership for me, was a person who I just had that connection with. She's not asexual, so that was a hurdle that we've had to work with. but it's just how it is. You know, my partner and I have been together for 9 years now. Yeah, because our son is 8. So, you know, I have a child. Like I said, it's not anything there as far as it goes. Half the time we don't even sleep in the same room just because that's just not us. But there's that partnership really there. We're the first person they'll go to is the other person, you know, above and beyond anybody else that we know or is there. Generally, when it comes down to the important stuff, I'll go to her, she'll come to me. And when it comes to talking about just day-to-day stuff, we're the people that we talk to.
How did you meet?
We actually met through her daughter. I was in a community theater group. Her daughter joined us for a play. One of our major parts ended up having some potential medical issues in the family. So we needed somebody to step in. Her daughter, when she was in there, I mean, she memorized the whole play in about a week. Like,
Wow.
I've never been off book just for my own part that fast, but she memorized the entire book, everybody's lines. So she said, no, my mom taught me how to do this. She can do this. It was like, all right, well, we'll talk to her, and came in. And then so she came in towards the end of our run. Like, we only had a couple weeks left before the show started. She was off book in like a day. I mean, she didn't memorize the whole play like her daughter did because she came in that early and whatever. But yeah, as I met her there, we've all had theater experience. So the hard part is getting a person into the in group at that point. Anybody who's done theater, community theater especially, you know, that cast has to solidify as a group. And it's hard to come in later on. So I reached out to her there and, you know, got kind of helped ease her into the group itself. And then we hit it off. Yeah, we've been together ever since. So this is a person that just connects on a different level.
So did it feel like just a strong friendship for you at first, or how was it different? And maybe it's hard for you to know how it was different.
Yeah,
you only know your own experience.
Right. And that's where it comes into, like, how do you know this versus, you know, some other, you know, your best friend there? It's like, I just know who is my partner is always, that's, you know, since I've met her, that's been my answer. We hit it off. We just kind of understood each other somehow right away. We complement each other, especially now after having been together for, I mean, it's not that long compared to some people, but 9 years is still, at this point, we complement each other. And I mean, like, the organization in the house would totally, she keeps our home together. She really does. I'm the one she leans on for the strength part, and I lean on her for the organizational part, which is, if she ever listens to this, she'll laugh about, because she feels that, and this is from her words, not me putting something onto her, but she feels disorganized all the time. So, but honestly, she's the one who puts up and deals with the disorganization. We do have a lot of neurodivergence in our house. So autism, ADHD is very strong inside the house.
When you look at the LGBTQ community, people gravitate toward one another. So there's lesbians will know other lesbians and things like that. They have organizations that they focus on, and you'll see a lot of that in the community. Mm-hmm. Is that also true of the asexual community?
That I'm not entirely sure of. I know, like, online and stuff, there is definitely that kind of thing. Honestly, coming out and actually being part of the LGBT community and calling myself in something that like that is fairly recent. Like, I only, you know, other than that, there's only 2 people that I've ever told before I told you. There was only 2 people I'd ever told, and that was Lisa and her daughter Milena. That's it. I'd never told anybody else. There's been a couple people since then, before I did that whole I'm ripping the Band-Aid off and coming out to my entire company. But that part, I don't know about the communities as far as actual interaction.
Yeah. And I just think that's such a good reminder. I've seen this happen again and again, that when there's somebody that comes and is part of the LGBTQ plus community and seems to be identifying as an ally, oftentimes there's more going on than being just an ally. There's a sense of, I'm either wrestling with who I am right now and trying to figure myself out, or I figured myself out, but I'm not ready to share this or talk about it yet.
Oh yeah, there's definitely a lot of that. Or the other people that I've seen there, it's like family is always a big one that usually brings in allies. That part I know about because I've identified as an ally for a while. That and being there, absolutely. So you'd always see somebody who's got, I've a cousin who's trans or a sister who's gay or, whatever. And you'll absolutely see that in allies. But yes, there's quite a few of us that apparently are, just not quite there yet. That happens because it's easier to identify as an ally than it is.
I found often that if I'm talking to cisgender people, they'll say, well, I don't know anybody like that.
Yeah,
how many people do you know? Do you know 10 people? Then you know somebody like that, probably.
You probably do. Well, and a lot of the stuff that I've seen from my experience in the LGBTQ as a community itself and things has been a lot of things that I try to do anyway, which is a lot of just introspection. I've mentioned the post there where I come out, and as an ambassador in that network resource group, now in a digital format, a lot of it has just been about, let's think about who these people are. Let's think about ourselves. Let's try to put ourselves into their shoes and think about what it might feel like to be something. Or just let's think about what it is that we are.
I'm Chuck Reynolds, and I started listening to Transcendent because Joe is my friend. I keep listening because I have friends, colleagues, and family members who are part of the LGBTQ community, and I want to better understand their struggles and perspectives. I have become a supporter because I believe Joe and Raya are truly helping to preserve relationships and save lives. Join me in supporting Transcendent. Just go to transcendent.com, click on support, and select the amount you'd like to give each month. It can be as little as $3, and you can cancel at any time.
So you spoke on all kinds of issues, especially through the month of June as Pride Month, but have really continued on even beyond then, bringing up issues in an environment where maybe those wouldn't come up if you didn't bring it up. You've been very proactive. Was that challenging for you, or were you nervous about the response that you would get?
I'm more nervous about the responses I'm going to get now that June is over. Because that's usually some of the things we've had in the past. I haven't been as vocal in the past as I have been lately. I haven't been as prolific out in those spaces. But things that have happened is, the trolls will leave us alone for the month of June. And then, okay, so now it's not Pride Month anymore. They need to go back in their closet. So now I'm more interested in what the responses are going to be. Are they going to go back to the things that I said before? Are they going to go after me for the stuff that I'm doing now? That's one of the things that I felt was better for me to do this, because as an asexual, cisgendered man, that puts me in a different spot. A lot of the vitriol that they might bring out against somebody, the things that they might claim against somebody or try to attack, don't exist here. Not with me. Worst case scenario, they say, they're all pedophiles, or, they just want to, do all this other stuff here. It's like, you're more sexual than I am. You are the one who has this drive. I don't. What are you talking about? Mm-hmm. And as far as the cisgendered man part, let's face it, they're going to go after anybody who's feminine harder than they're going to go after a guy. So I'm trying to use some of the privileges I have just to force that down and keep it here.
We've discussed a lot of things here that separate the LGBT community from people who are not accepting. Mm. And then some will say, well, I'm accepting, but I'm not affirming. And that means they're really not there. Right. It means I've got a little problem with this. You don't have that because from their perspective, there's no threat. Mm-hmm. There's no argument because they can't say, the Bible says right here, the
Bible doesn't say anything about me.
Exactly. Which makes you a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah, it puts me in a little bit of a spot where I'm a little more bulletproof or can stand as a shield in front of some of these. I can bring up these topics because, okay, every single time you hear that gotcha question, it's always a woman. It's always, what is a woman? Every single time they ask that, it's women in transports, things like that. I can stand there and say, all right, let's turn this on. Let's actually get rid of it. Because it's not only are you getting into the homophobic or transphobic areas, but you're also getting into a sexist aspect there and really punching down. No, I can stand here. Fine, take it. I'm right here.
Right. Certainly, when you see the people that are attacking, especially on the trans issue, they're oftentimes only thinking of trans women, and particularly trans women that are probably not very passing is the only people that they have in their mind. They never are thinking about trans men. They're really not thinking about our community. They're thinking about what they imagine our community to be and the worst in their mind of who our community must be.
Yeah, there are some people that just have to be victims, and so they're going to take, the worst case scenarios, which why you're even thinking about some of those things, we should probably dig into. Why would you be concerned about somebody in a bathroom when you're in a bathroom?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Why are you even thinking about that?
Yeah.
Especially the idea of, well, we want everybody to use the bathroom that they were assigned at birth. Well,
I was assigned a diaper at birth.
They're forgetting that you've got trans men that are very masculine presenting now. Have full beards and really muscular because they've been on testosterone for however long. And you want them to go and use the women's bathroom? Really?
Well, it's like like gender neutral bathrooms. Come on, folks. We're just everybody poops. All right, it's going to happen. we're all going in here for a reason, and generally speaking, we all got the same business to do. We might just have different parts.
When I was young, I lived in Japan for 2 years. This was back in the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
In Japan, in many small towns, they didn't even have men's bathrooms and women's bathrooms. It was all one.
Mm-hmm.
I'd go out on a date and I'd say, I'm going to the bathroom. And she'd say, I'll go with you.
Well, there you go.
It's just unusual, but I got used to it. It meant nothing.
We are so accustomed to that now that we assume that because we've always seen men's and women's bathrooms, that's how it should be. Mm-hmm. And we get very scared at the idea of any challenge to that. But it doesn't have to be that way.
No, and that brings it back to the introspection portion that I'm trying to do on those posts and things is more, when it comes down to it, everyone should evaluate their values every so often, or their ideas and their opinions. Just think about them. Is this true? And is this helpful? If it's neither of those things, get rid of it.
I think whoever decided that we should have separate bathrooms was probably the same person that decided that the stalls should not go all the way to the floor. Who decided that? That is the silliest thing. Why wouldn't you have those? It's just a little bit of extra material there.
And every single porta potty is gender neutral. So, yeah. Yeah, there's no real reason for it. I mean, with the guys section, there's some plumbing issues that, if they're standing up, it does make certain things a little bit easier and you can take up less space. But honestly, you still, for the most part now, they're building in the dividers anyway. So who cares?
Well, when you decided to come out, it was a real decision for you, despite the fact that, as we've talked about, from our perspective, it seems like, well, that should be easier because you're not making yourself a target. And yet, not to minimize, because for you, that was a huge decision.
It was. I mean, anytime that somebody comes out about anything, putting out into the world that this exists, that you are identifying as a thing, like I said, there was 2 people, then you, then a couple other people. And that's it. That's the only people that ever actually told anything to. And then I just happened to mention in a comment for something else that I didn't quite feel like I necessarily fit into the LGBTQ community, but I will still count myself as an ally. And then I'm like, you know what? Let's just take the whole Band-Aid off. It was a huge thing. I put that out at the end of the day on a Friday. At the very end, and I worked the late shift. So I posted that. I hit submit on that the very end of the day on a Friday. And I'm like, okay, all right, let's see what happens and what they're going to do on this one. I have no idea. And then I'm like, you know what? I feel good about this. And then Monday came and I've got in there and it's like, oh, okay. People No? All right. Either people went along or they were very supportive. And I'm like, all right, cool.
I can identify with that. And when I guess I never thought of it, called it like this, but when I came out as alcoholic,
Yep.
and it's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
The funny thing was, I would embarrass myself many, many times. And I was worried that I might tell somebody that I'm an alcoholic and embarrass myself. Are you kidding? I did all this other stuff, which was really stupid. When I finally did that, I felt the same way you did.
Yeah.
And once I admitted it, I could tackle the problem.
Yeah, it was definitely out there. I mean, I absolutely, having talked, because other people reached out in a more private fashion, thinking, hey, thanks for doing this, because they were in what, that's when I learned the term, the glass closet. I'd never heard that one before.
I don't know that one.
I don't either.
I hadn't heard it until then. It was what they said, it was the glass closet. They were out to friends only. Friends and close family. Everybody else, they were still in it. So they could see through, but they were still kind of shut in there. Yeah, so they're like, hey, I'm another ace in the glass closet. Thank you for doing that. And I got a couple of people out that actually came out that way, and I didn't expect that. But
so you met a few others then. I didn't see anybody in the comments.
Nobody
that came out, but there were some that came out to you privately.
Yeah, like it was when I did it. I'm like, okay, there's some open people out there that were LGBTQ, so whatever, just having those stories put out there. There's a couple people that actually have, if you go through some of them, they have put out a lot of information, not just on that one, but other topics that I'd put out there that have gone into some deep into their lives on those. And honestly, that's a good one too, just to get people to realize there's people here and to humanize the face. Remember, these are people that we know and we talk to on a regular basis.
Well, speaking of that, you are talking to a very large audience here, and you have an opportunity to tell them what you'd like them to know. What would you like to tell the audience?
You can ask. There are safe places. You can find the communities themselves. They're out there, and you can pick out one person, especially if you're just sneaking around, stalking in through whatever the groups are. You can pick out the one person. You'll know that they resonate there. Usually, if they're in those types of places and they're open about it, just ask the question. It's okay. If you're questioning, that's great. Honestly, I think it's great if somebody questions themselves about anything, because that's how you understand yourself. Whether it is your sexuality, your gender itself, your opinion as to what is the best pizza, any of those are going to be still things that help you understand yourself, which are going to help you understand other people. So just ask and talk. You can stalk us all and just watch if you want, but really just ask.
It's great. One great way to stalk is that you can continue coming and listening to this podcast. We're grateful to have you coming back week after week. We're trying to bring you a positive message every single week. We hope we've done that again. Will, thank you so much for joining us here today.
My pleasure.
And with that, we'll see you Monday.